Welcome everyone to the Brown Dad. We are here on another fun-filled episode with my very, very close friend, Vick Markandu. Vick, please say hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us on the show. Vic was actually, for those that don't know, was actually our first interview that we actually did. Unfortunately, that was more a testing ground for us, so we kind of had to figure out what we had to do with the sound. So thank you, Vic, for actually redoing this interview. It's been quite a patient journey for you, and
Of
thank you for finally
course,
coming back to doing it. Vic, you want to tell our viewers something about yourself?
Um, nothing much. I'm just average Joe working 9 to 5 job. Learned a lot of things through experience, my dad's guidance,
Yeah.
as well as now I'm a father myself. So trying to apply that to my kid and see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us that little brief. Vic and I go very far back. I've known you for many years, Vic. And, we've had so many fun adventures and so many crazy times. And I knew your dad, and obviously that was, with his passing away, there was obviously a change in atmosphere and life around you, right? But
Yeah.
let's move back. Let's go back to when you first came to Canada. You came to Canada. You migrated here, right?
Yes.
And where did
I
you
was.
migrate from? Did you could Are you okay with sharing that with our viewers?
Yeah, I was 6 year old when I came to Canada.
Right,
Uh, we had to leave our place. It was an unfortunate event. My
right,
dad was in the army,
right,
and the Civil War broke out.
right.
Because he was in the army and it was war against the army. We kind of got to leave our country, leave everything behind. Uh, Packed up maybe like one of those small plastic bags of whatever we can find. We had to leave overnight.
Yeah.
uh, we left in a like a dump truck.
Wow.
They Yeah, they
Wow.
hit us underneath, put all kind of stuff on top of us to make sure that we're hidden.
Wow.
Um, we had to flee the country pretty much. We had
So
to flee our leave our.
how many of you in the family, if you don't mind
So it
sharing?
was me, my brother, two of my sister, and my mom. All of us pretty much just gathered whatever we can gather,
Wow.
left our home, left everything we built and dad built, and just flee the country.
Yeah, that's quite a crazy situation, having to pick up literally overnight and disappear. If you don't mind sharing with our viewers what was going on for those that are not in the know.
So it was the civil war in Sri Lanka. My dad was in the army, and when the war broke out, they kind of accused us of being informers
Right,
because dad was in the army.
right,
Even though you know, we were living in Jaffna, and dad was always living in Colombo because of the army camp and everything.
right,
But luckily, my dad left the country a year before the war broke out.
right,
He left to France,
right,
where my sisters are there.
right.
But we were fine up until the war broke out, and then but one day these guys just showed up in trucks with AK-47s and had all of us lined up in our own house front yard, gun pointed to our head, and said we've been giving information to the army, and so therefore we have to get rid of the informers.
Wow.
And I was a 6 year old kid, and that moment still stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Since I left the country, I never want to step in that country because of that experience.
No, I can
We have
imagine.
house, we have land, we have all the
Wow.
childhood memories. For me, it's in that house, but I
Right.
cannot even take my daughter to show this is where daddy grew up. The reason being is the trauma they caused when I was a kid. I don't want ever feel that, or even put my daughter through that, because still it's a war country. Everything's fine, but
Right.
there's still a lot of stuff happening there. So I don't feel comfortable taking her back home to show where daddy grew up.
Right. No, that's definitely quite a challenging situation, right? For our viewers. Like, I mean, I can't even fathom being a 6-year old and and being held at gunpoint, like an AK-47, having to go through that experience, and then be there with your siblings, and not the uncertainty of just experiencing that entire experience. This is crazy. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
it's like a
crazy.
movie, but that picture's still in the back of my head, man. Anybody ask me about my hometown, I always say, yeah, it's a beautiful place, but I'll never go there because of
Yeah,
that experience.
no, I can imagine. It is life changing, right? It is definitely.
Yeah,
And then, so obviously you were six, and you're the youngest, right, of all your siblings,
youngest in the family, yes.
right? So, I mean, obviously, then you were then picked up from there, and then you literally had to leave. So you're left overnight, and what
We
was
left
happening?
overnight, went to Colombo in a dump truck. From there, because mom had new people that dad worked with, so they
Right,
kind of helped us to get visa, passport, everything, because we couldn't carry all that.
right,
So
right,
we fled our country and went to India,
right,
where we knew no one there.
right,
We got just shipped on a boat,
right,
went to India, and had no clue, had no house, nothing.
right,
Went there in a small, I don't know, a shed kind of thing
right,
for a few
right,
weeks. We stayed there where until mom figured out, what she can do and whatever. And finally, we settled down. My brothers and sisters went to school. I
right,
couldn't go to school, so I was pretty much helping my mom
right,
uh, because where we were in India back in 89, 88, 89, um, the place we were at, there was no water supply, nothing. So it will
right,
be a water truck that comes, and whatever water we can grab in that time frame
right,
in buckets and jars
right,
is what we use to for cooking, for bathing,
right.
for everything you need water.
I mean,
That's the amount
we
of
we
water
we take it for
we
granted
did.
over here, right, in Canada specifically, because we come from a land of Great Lakes, a
Yeah,
lot of fresh water. So
yeah,
there's almost a sort of an abundance of water. We almost take it for granted, where people leave the tap running,
yeah,
and it's just taken for granted. So I mean, coming from that lifestyle definitely gives you a total different appreciation, right?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So, so how long were you in India under these circumstances?
So we were in India for about a year and a half,
Right,
and then my sister saw our condition, and she said, and I was like scrawny.
right,
You can see my collarbone, you can see my bones. So she kind of said, okay, where you guys are is not healthy, whatever, because
right,
I was getting sick.
right,
So she got an agency and helped us to leave India
right,
again illegally.
right,
So
right,
we had to leave India illegally, go to Singapore.
right.
From Singapore, we stayed there for 6 months, got passport, everything, and then they got fake passport, fake everything for us um, to get us to France, where my sister,
Wow,
my father, everybody was.
wow. Okay,
And yeah, luckily, God, I guess God was on our side. When
right,
we got to France, I got sick badly. My sister got sick badly. My
right.
mom was sick. So even the custom officers there
Yeah,
didn't stop us. They says, you know what, you guys not well. Called us an ambulance right away.
right.
Got all of our stuff, put us in an ambulance, got us out of the airport, went straight to the hospital, and I was in the hospital for a week and a half
Wow.
because of all the condition that I was living in India. I
And the
got
malnutrition and everything
all
else,
kind
right?
of
Yeah, no, I can
weakness,
imagine.
sick.
I
Yeah.
can imagine it's definitely quite a challenging situation. So you went through all of this, and like as a family, obviously you guys were struggling, you know, disjointed in some ways, and then being uprooted, and then now you're in France, and obviously finding yourself in a hospital. How old are you at this age? At
I was about 7, 8.
wow,
Yeah,
that's
and the funny thing is, back home we had all kind of factories. We got a
right,
rice paddy field. We
right,
had a soap factory. We had papadum factory.
right,
Everything. We just left everything as is and went to India, where we were running around with I can't even explain. It's like those little, where you catch water. Like I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
you've seen in Indian movies
yeah,
where water truck comes, people are
yeah.
running.
It's a little
That was
bucket.
our
Yeah,
condition, and which mentally affected because we had our own well back
right,
home.
right,
We don't.
right.
We just go get
Yeah, it
water,
was all the
and
luxury,
our
right?
well was all
Yeah,
equipped with pump and everything.
right,
And it's just like you go inside the kitchen and you open the pump, the
yeah,
water just comes through the
right,
pipe into the
right,
kitchen. So for us to run to a truck and my sisters used to be ready
yeah,
when I run back and forth, I get them water so they can shower.
right, right,
And same time, mom will be ready,
yeah,
keep some water for cooking stuff. But
yeah,
mainly, I was the helper. I was the last kid, so I was the helper
right,
with all that
yeah.
fantastic stuff.
It's crazy, crazy experiences, right? But I mean, they build character, and they definitely help build who you are as a person,
Yes.
because it's definitely influenced you, right, as a dad. Now, obviously, I mean, in all this time, because you were a little away from your dad,
Yeah.
then now meeting your dad after that time, how was that? What was your journey like? What was your interaction with your
Uh,
father? With your
there's a funny story to that. When I was in Sri Lanka, I used to go to a Catholic school.
Yeah,
So for us, you always, for me personally, I was always in Catholic religion, Jesus, going to
right,
church and all that.
right,
So one time back home, after the war broke out, I was walking through a field
mm-hmm,
where the helicopters started shooting,
mm-hmm,
and I had to dodge. It's funny, but I had to dodge bullets
right,
from that young age,
right,
and I was running, hiding underneath the trees.
right,
Okay. And when that whole thing done, I wrote a letter to dad.
right.
I was studying an English medium, so I wrote a very, I would say, very
Heartfelt letter to dad.
heartfelt as well as angry
Right.
letter to dad. That's what the push was for the dad to say, okay, you know what, let's get them out of
Out of here.
India,
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
move them to France, right?
Right, right.
And yeah, and it's, I guess, at the end of it, God helped me because 2 3 times I got locked out of the house when the firing started.
Right.
One time my sisters thought I was at my aunt's house. My aunt and them thought I was already in my house, but I got stuck in between the houses, running
Wow.
around, dodging bullets because what they do is when they have come on a helicopter,
Right.
they got heat sensors.
Right.
So if something's running
They
around,
just
they can sense
shoot.
and they start shooting.
Right.
So luckily, by our house and everything, we have big trees
Right.
where you can hide underneath. And
Wow.
after all the shooting is done, you can see the shell marks of the guns coming from the helicopter all around the house. And I was still like running around hiding. My
Wow.
sister found me hidden under a tree, crumbled up, and that's when the shootings happened. That's when they found me there.
No, I can
So
imagine. I mean, the trauma is
very, very tough childhood.
yeah, it's very traumatic, right? I mean, not a lot of people obviously go through that experience. Well, thank you for sharing that, Vic. I think it is very personal. You know,
It's good to know. It's not
yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
People look at me and they're like, "Oh, he's fine."
yeah,
No, I had a very tough childhood,
yeah,
and then I grew up to who I am, which
yeah,
I'm a father of my daughter. So
yeah,
I'm making sure that she has something that I didn't have, and she doesn't have to go through any of the stuff
yeah.
that I went through as a child.
Yeah, so now you know what, like I'd like you to share with our viewers. Obviously, that has changed you, right? It's changed you in ways that make you appreciate what it is that you have, and therefore, as you said, you want to give your daughter a better life going forward. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, then you moved from France, and then at some point in time from France you moved here. What
Yeah,
was?
France. We were studying in French.
Mm-hmm,
Everything's French. To go to English class, we had
right.
to pay.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, each and every course you took in English, we had to
right.
pay.
Right.
So at that time, Dad, my other sisters were in Canada.
Right.
So Dad said, you know what, it's better because it's four of us, me, my brother, and two of my sisters,
Right.
have to go through school.
Right.
And yes, we were learning French, but French, it's pretty much just one. But Dad always believed in English, and because anywhere in
Mm-hmm.
the world you go,
Right.
English is more, you know, a
Easily
language
accepted. Right.
everyone uses versus French.
Right.
So that's the reason when we got uh, applied to come to Canada because by then we were already French citizens.
Right.
So it was easier for us to go from France to Montreal because it was the French colony.
Right.
So we said, okay, we want to move to Canada, Montreal, and want to go settle there. So they actually gave us the visa, everything. So we moved to Montreal first, lived there for a couple of months, and then again, Montreal is French. So then Dad moved to Toronto, and all of us pretty much living in one-bedroom apartment when we came back in the day, in the 90s.
I know, it's very different, right? And now you have a house with too many bedrooms to count.
Too many bedrooms, too many things to clean. So it's, you live and learn.
Yeah, well, it's a blessing, It's kind of those hard days that actually take you through where it is that you are now. Give you a sense of appreciation of how it is that, the journey that you've taken. And it also gives you a renewed sense of appreciation for being alive, right? Because obviously not a lot of other people can talk about those experiences that you have. Now, obviously, when you came then to Canada, to Montreal, and then coming from Montreal to Toronto, there would have been some kind of change, right? How was that cultural shock for you? How was that experience?
Cultural shock was because I was used to French.
Right.
So when I moved to Toronto, I went to junior high, and I was fluent in French, but the teachers refused to talk to me in French.
Right. Right.
So I had a hard time because I was all in French, and they were starting explaining everything in English.
Right.
And back home English is different.
Right.
I was a little kid also, so I didn't fully capture into language.
Right.
And in Toronto, one French teacher took interest because she knew that I'm from France, so my French is different from Canadian French. And second of all, I can say a broken English.
Right.
So she started explaining everything to me in French, and then will start explaining to me in English, so I understand.
Right.
And she's the first person, I still remember, she's the first person who took me to Pizza Hut. Gave me, because I'm not used to eating outside, and she took me, and she actually came home one day, talked to my parents, says, I want to take him with the rest of the kids, because she was very nice. Like, I still remember that teacher. So she took us to a baseball game, Skydome back then. Now it's Rogers Center. I went for my first baseball game. Then went to Pizza Hut there, and that was experience. And from there on, slowly, start picking up English, and start now. If you ask me French. Lost it because no.
That was going to be my next question, right? Like, how's your
because the thing is, I can understand.
Yeah.
But talking back, it always goes back to my English. Yeah. Like my sister and them still in France, so whenever my niece and nephew comes, they'll talk to me in French.
Right.
I always reply in English.
Right.
And the thing is, because they knew I lived in France.
Right.
And so they're like, "Why can't you speak French?" I said, "Because in Canada, unless I'm, talking to somebody in French, whatever, you kind of lose touch."
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard because it's kind of hard.
A little different, right? So I mean,
and then the dialect is different. It's very different from France to Canadian French.
Right. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. It does get a little challenging, but I think one of the things is you don't ever forget the language, at least the understanding of it.
No, if I start talking, I'll pick it up right, because my sister talks to me, because my sister is fully fluent French.
Right.
So she talks to me sometimes in French, and I always respond to her in English.
Right.
So I understand. It's just talking back. So I figured, like, even for example, my wife is Punjabi, right?
Right.
So I was picking up Hindi and things. So when we went to India, her cousin and them didn't realize I understood Hindi.
Right.
So they started talking to her in Hindi, and I would start replying in English. And they looked at me and they're like, "Why is you?" I said, "Well, I'm married to her." I'm picking up the language. The more you hear, the more you see movies, everything. I start picking up the language.
Right.
So it's kind of, unless somebody's talking to you,
Yeah.
it's hard to pick up the language. But if somebody's talking to you, and here and there, like I can understand the words and I can start
Right.
talking to them in English, I'll respond to you in English.
Right.
But speaking in Hindi is kind of,
Right. Right. Well,
yeah,
so
so,
interesting. So interesting point that you brought up there, right? Because you
yeah.
obviously come from a Sri Lankan Tamil background, and then your wife being Punjabi, and now your daughter being raised in Canada, right? So how what languages are you inculcating any of the native languages in her?
Well, right now my daughter is she's 4 years old, so
Mm-hmm.
she's learning French.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that she learned French,
Right.
English also,
Right.
and grandma talks to her in Hindi,
Nice.
and when she comes from my side of the side, my brother and my sisters talks to her in Tamil.
Oh, nice.
So when you see my daughter and she listens to Tamil songs,
Right.
she'll start repeating. She'll sing the Tamil songs,
Right.
and then when Nani talks to her in Hindi,
Right.
she'll start doing what Nani's saying or trying to respond to her in Hindi.
Right. Right.
So she's picking up all the languages. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that she will be able to, you know, pick those four languages.
Yeah. Yeah.
English, French, Hindi, and Tamil.
Tamil,
She
right.
knows all those four languages. She can go anywhere in the world. She'll survive.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. No, it's definitely a blessing. I mean, knowing different languages obviously helps not only make your communication with certain groups of people easier, but
Yeah.
even just universally understanding, because now you start understanding different colloquialisms and different languages, and each language has your own intricacies with expression, right? Sometimes it's body
Yeah.
expression,
Already,
sometimes
yeah.
it's so it's each one's got their own thing, but I think that definitely helps. I mean, personally, I mean, I've got a daughter as well, and that being said, I mean, I inculcated sign language in her, right, growing up, because
Okay. Good.
yeah, because I thought it was important before she could learn to speak, at least sign was
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
important.
because
So
then
just
and then when she started speaking, then obviously inculcating English, and then a little bit of Hindi, and then a little bit of, well, I inculcate all the other languages, including Spanish and
yeah, Spanish is another big one.
yeah,
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
you can use. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's definitely a blessing. So how does that now? Because obviously you've gone through quite a challenging childhood, and you've obviously had this entire roller coaster of rides from one end of the spectrum to where you are right now. And obviously now at this point in time, having a child, how does that impact you as a dad?
So I learned a few things from my dad. My
Right.
dad always taught me, you know, it's good to be true. Um, he always says, people go to church, people go to temple,
Mm.
everything. My dad never goes to temple or church. His praying area is the puja room,
Right.
upstairs. And he always says, God is within you.
Right.
If you don't harm people, if you don't do any bad things to anyone else, you know, and if you can help whoever you can help,
Right.
that is pretty much is God.
Right.
God is, power, or a lot of people have different ways of
Right.
saying what it is,
Right.
but he goes, it's all within.
Right.
If you can be good and help, and even small things, you
Right.
help somebody else. That's what God is always doing to other people. When somebody sits there and pray and say, God help me,
Right.
he's not coming down physically to help them.
Right.
Right? That's what it is. So if I see someone who, says, hey, do you have some change, or I'm hungry or something, initially, as always, other people, I was giving them change.
Right.
Then I always watch them. What do they do with it?
Okay.
Because I want to make sure that I'm not getting fooled, right?
Right.
And then when somebody says I'm hungry, I'll actually go out of my way, grab a slice of pizza, a pop, or Tim Hortons, and give them that.
Right.
And a lot of people appreciate it. A lot of people thank you,
Right.
And a lot of guys, they're like, well, I didn't ask you for that. I asked you for money.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, your board says you're hungry.
Right.
You need help.
Right. Right.
Here you go,
Right.
food, and that, because that's what I believe in. I'm like, if I can give a hand to anyone
Yeah.
that need it, I don't mind doing it,
Right.
because my dad's belief is don't harm anyone,
Yeah.
don't cheat anyone.
Yeah.
If you can do good, do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit,
Yeah.
just help out. If you can't, that's all if you can, you can.
Yeah.
But if you're in a position where you can even give a finger to help someone,
Yeah.
go ahead. That will always, will give you satisfaction and peace that I help someone. Not like, oh, I looked at them and said, I just walked away. No, no, no.
Yeah.
So same thing I'm trying to teach my daughter now is like, if somebody comes and asks you for something,
Yeah.
always learn to share,
Yeah.
always listen and try to help people, because you have everything you want doesn't mean that other people in the world have it.
Right.
And I always try to show her, stuff on TV and say, look, these kids don't have all this.
Right.
So you should be wasting food. You shouldn't be wasting, breaking things.
Right.
No, I know she's little,
Right.
but I always want to start putting the seed in her mind, don't waste stuff, help others. So, if something ever happened to me,
It's
whatever,
definitely
she'll be able
beautiful
to,
advice. It's
carry
definitely
that
it's
like how
definitely
I carry
beautiful
what my dad
advice.
said.
Yeah. No, no, no. It's definitely beautiful advice. I totally agree with what your dad said. I mean, it's beautiful that you're teaching your daughter, no matter the age that she's at, right? Because it's important. I mean, the children are our future, and the
Yeah,
more you teach them at a younger age, the better our world is going to be, right? And
that's true.
that's what we try and do. I mean, even here at Brown Dad, where we're trying to change that whole the whole platform from patriarchy to partnership, because we believe that through partnership that we can build a better world. And I mean, partnership not only with the spouse but even with the child, for that matter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely, thank you for sharing that. So I mean, that obviously does impact you, and then it brings this very sobering view of the world, where you obviously share that with your child. So what do you then see the ideal brown dad as?
Well, a lot of older generation have this mentality of, you come here
Right.
and uh, they, when like for example, I'll take my parents, right?
Right.
When my parents came here,
Right.
they go to work, come home, they
Mm-hmm.
rent an apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and they think that's life,
Mm-hmm.
because they can't afford to buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
they can't afford to have fancy cars, whatever. They like, no, as long as you go to work, come home, we have food on the table, and you have shelter. That's what it is.
Right.
That's what life was about.
Right.
But my theory is, our parents suffered,
Mm-hmm.
brought us here. And yes, they got us in shelter, they got us food and everything. But if we don't make that a better life than what we had,
Right.
so that's why, like, my thing with, even with my friends, I tell them, yes, you can rent a place, but it's always a struggle to get your own place.
Right.
But once you have your own place, it's not for you, it's for your future generation,
Right.
right? For me, the reason I worked hard to get a house and all that stuff is, it's not for me.
Right.
It's for my, pretty much, if once something happens to me or whatever, at least my daughter has a place where she can say, okay, you know what, I can live here, or I can sell this and get what she wants.
Right.
But you have to make sure that you progress, little by little in life, because like I said, I've been in Canada for more than 20 years now.
Right.
For me to rent a place or live in a basement or an apartment, then I failed my parents.
Right.
They send us to school. They want us to have good education. Why? To improve our life.
Right.
And if I didn't do that, and if I did not providing something for my kids, that then I failed my parents, which I don't want to do. So my thing was, work hard, yes, enjoy life, but at the
Right.
same time, make sure your kids will have something and say, this is what my parents gave me.
Right.
Now I want to take that and I want to grow a little bit more bigger or
Right.
bigger,
Right.
right? So nowadays, I look at my niece and nephew and all of them.
Right.
And when we came here, all of us were living in apartments,
Right.
rentals.
Right.
Now, within our own family, we got doctors, computer sciences, all that. And if you look at all of them, they have this ambition of want to have bigger houses. They want to have something. Why? Because they've seen their parents
Right.
struggle. Like my sisters, my brother worked double job, overtime. This
It's all that
and then
sacrifice, right? It's a lot of sacrifice.
lot of sacrifice. So
Yeah.
now the kids, every one of the kids, little would like starting from, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a dentist, I want to be this. Why? Because they want to make sure that they are achieving what
Right.
their parents could achieve, right?
Right.
So that's why I also tell my wife, make sure you start teaching our daughter culture
Right.
as well as responsibilities. I know she's young,
Right.
but she has to learn from a young age to not to waste food. Like even right now, if you let my daughter into the washroom to brush, she'll turn off the tab, brush it, turn it off right away.
Right.
Like you want to let the water run.
It's an appreciation, right? That's really
Yeah.
important.
So it's like, you plant those seeds early
Yeah.
ages, and slowly they'll understand,
Definitely.
and they'll make the world a better place for themselves.
Definitely. So now, I mean, as we come to the end of our interview, I'm just going to ask you: do you have any words of wisdom for our viewers? I call this section the pearls of wisdom. I originally did start it with you. Unfortunately, we didn't get to share your original pearls of wisdom with
No,
our
no, no,
viewers.
I understand. Like I said again, my thoughts were, I said, my wisdom is make sure your parents' ambition, everything's achieved, as well as you, with like us, all of us being dads and parents, we want to make sure that our kids see the value in life, and say, this is what our parents taught us. We want to make sure we follow the right path.
Right.
Like in young age, yes, we party this and that, but at the same time, as we age, we start following the path where our parents said, okay, you got to do this, you have to achieve something.
Right.
Which, in my thing, I think I did good.
Yeah.
From where I am to where I am now.
Right.
At the same time, I want to make sure that I want to leave something for my daughter, or something that she can turn around and say, this came from my parents.
Right.
Now I want to make sure that I leave something for her, their kids.
Right.
So generation, you want to make sure that
generational wealth, right? That's what you're trying to create.
and that's the only way you will be able to, like, you left everything
Yeah.
back home,
Yeah.
and you come here, and when we
Yeah.
came here, nothing. But you can't leave the world with nothing also.
Right.
Right?
Well,
That's the thing.
technically, I mean, you do leave it with nothing, but at least you leave something for the next generation.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yes.
With the hope that they definitely will do better. And I mean, it's not just leaving them physical wealth, like financial wealth, but even the emotional wealth and all of that. As you said, understanding, abundance, understanding the value of what it is that we have, understanding the emotional wealth, the generational wealth,
Sorry about my
all of that. And I think you have a guest at your house, so
I believe so.
I believe so. So let's thank you so much, Vic, for doing this. I definitely have to thank you for taking the time to redo this entire interview.
No worries. Anytime.
It's been a pleasure. Look forward to your interview. I know you've got a job in the public sector and sort of private sector. Maybe we can talk about that job and how to kind of help other people get into that. If anyone's interested, maybe you're willing to share that in another.
Yeah, I used to be a manager at restaurants, and slowly I got myself into TTC, Toronto Transit Commission, which it's a good job. It pays well. Work is not hard. A lot of people think driving a bus is hard. Me, I never drove anything bigger than my SUV.
Right.
When I first got into the bus, I was like, oh God, I can't park this. I can't drive this.
Right.
Now my friend sees me. I drive. They say, you're driving like it's your car, right? So I tell people, I said, they're hiring with COVID. They're massively hiring. So if anybody's looking for good pension, good job security, TTC or any government job, get your foot in. It's a struggle at the beginning, but once you get your foot in, you will always appreciate it. You will have a good pension, a good lifestyle, and believe me, I've been doing it for almost like 9 years now. I never thought I would last at TTC, 9 years, but hey, here I am, and I would say go for it, man. It's not hard. It's not. A lot of people have that perception of, oh, driving a bus is great. No, it's easy.
No,
it's
but
easy.
I hope
and
to bring
TTC
you on.
is hiring.
Yeah,
if people are looking, they are hiring.
No, I hope to bring you on a future episode, and maybe we talk through the experience or what it was that you went through. But I mean, for this episode, Vic, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank all our viewers for tuning in this time again to the Brown Dad. It's been a pleasure. This is our new season of interviews. As you can see, we've got a different format here. So, Vic, thank you so much. I look forward to chatting with you again. And thank you so much for doing this interview,
Oh, thank you.
Ciao. Take care.
Ciao. Take care. See you.